Our science fair project wasn't supposed to work, but it did. Story 1. The static between worlds, we were just messing around. Then something answered us. Tyler and I had been best friends since middle school, and we'd developed a reputation for half-assing our science fair projects. Last year, we'd submitted a baking soda volcano that exploded all over Mrs. Henderson's shoes. The year before that, our solar system model was literally oranges hanging from strings. So when Mr. Reeves announced the senior year science fair would count for 30% of our final grade, we knew we had to do something different. Something that looked impressive but required minimal effort. That's when Tyler found the old EVP device schematics online. Electronic voice phenomenon, he explained, was this pseudoscience thing where people claimed they could record ghost voices through radio static. Perfect, we agreed. We'd build something that looked complicated. Fill our presentation board with scientific-sounding nonsense about electromagnetic frequencies and residual energy. And coast to a soli B. We spent 3 weeks in Tyler's garage, soldering circuits we barely understood, connecting a modified police scanner to an old tape recorder and a frequency analyzer Tyler's dad had lying around from his ham radio days. We added blinking leadies, because teachers loved blinking leadies. The whole thing looked like something from an 80s sci-fi movie. All exposed wires and brushed aluminum, housed in a wooden box we'd stained to look antique. The night before the fair, we decided to test it, just to make sure it actually powered on and made noise. We set up in Tyler's basement around midnight, both of us exhausted and running on energy drinks. Tyler flipped the switch. The device hummed to life, LEDs blinking in sequence. Static poured from the speaker, that familiar wash of white noise. We'd rigged it, so turning a dial would cycle through different frequency ranges, creating the illusion that we were scanning for something. Scanning for spirits, Tyler said in a mock serious voice, slowly turning the dial. Is anyone there? We both laughed. Then the static changed. It was subtle at first. The white noise seemed to pulse, developing a rhythm that almost sounded like breathing. Tyler's hand froze on the dial. We looked at each other, smiles fading. Did you rig this to do that? I whispered. He shook his head. Dude, I barely know how half this stuff works. Then came the voice. Not words, exactly. More like the impression of words buried under layers of static, as if someone was trying to speak through a bad connection from very far away. The frequency analyzer on the screen started showing patterns, regular spikes that looked almost like a waveform of speech. Hello, Tyler said, his voice cracking. Is someone there? The static intensified. This time, we both heard it clearly. A single word that made my blood turn to ice. Yes. We sat frozen, staring at the device. Neither of us reached for the dial or the power switch. The rationale part of my brain was screaming that this had to be picking up a CB radio transmission, or someone's baby monitor, or literally anything other than what it seemed to be. But something in that voice, something in the quality of it, felt wrong. It felt old. It felt hungry. Who are you? I asked, barely breathing. The static shifted and swirled. The response came slowly. Words, forming like ice crystals. Forgotten. So long. Dark here. Tyler's face had gone pale. This is bullshit, right? This is someone pranking us. Us? To be. But we both knew his garage was insulated, buried in a subdivision miles from the nearest highway. There were no radio towers nearby. No reason for a clear voice to come through the static. How long have you been there? Tyler asked, and I shot him a look that said, shut up, turn it off, but he ignored me. The device crackled. More words emerged. Since the wall, since the silence. Are you the way out? That's when the temperature dropped. Not gradually. Instantly. Our breath became visible in the air. The single bulb overhead flickered, casting the basement in strobing shadows. Turn it off, I said. Tyler, turn it off right now. But before he could move, the voice came again. Louder, more urgent. Don't leave. Please. Please. Please been so long. So cold. Need to come through. Need to. Tyler lunged for the power switch and killed it. The static died instantly, leaving us in heavy silence, broken only by our ragged breathing. The temperature stayed cold for several minutes before gradually warming. Neither of us slept that night. We sat upstairs in Tyler's living room with all the lights on, not talking about what we'd heard. Both of us trying to convince ourselves it had been some weird radio interference. But the next morning, as we were loading the device into Tyler's car for the science fair, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. On the wooden box, scratched into the stain as if by fingernails, were words that definitely hadn't been there before. Thank you for opening the door. We stood at the science fair now, our booth set up, the device sitting innocently on the table with its circuit diagrams and presentation board. Other students milled around, laughing, testing their projects. Mrs. Henderson was 3 booths down, examining someone's potato battery. Tyler looked at me. We don't have to turn it on for the demonstration, right? I was about to agree when I noticed something. The device was on. The LEDs were blinking in sequence, even though the power switch was clearly in the off position. And from the speaker, so quietly that only Tyler and I could hear it, came a sound like breathing, like something waiting patiently on the other side of the static, waiting for us to dial it back in. We were just messing around. Then something answered us. Sarah had always been the brains of our duo, while I was more the guy who makes sure we do yant burn the school down type. When she pitched the idea of building an electromagnetic voice transcription device for the science fair, I'd nodded along without really understanding what half those words meant. She showed me forum posts, Reddit threads, YouTube videos of ghost hunters using similar equipment. It was all hokum, obviously, but it sounded impressive and complicated enough to wow the judges. We built it over 4 weekends in my dad's workshop, following circuit diagrams Sarah found on some paranormal investigation website. The theory, she explained, was that the dead existed at specific electromagnetic frequencies, and if you tuned your equipment correctly, you could convert those frequencies into audible sound. Pseudoscience garbage, but we made it look legitimate with frequency graphs and peer-reviewed articles about electromagnetic fields. The device itself was actually pretty cool looking. We dehoused everything in a clear acrylic case so you could see all the components. The modified radio receiver, the custom-built amplifier, the signal processor connected to a laptop running audio analysis software Sarah had coded herself. It definitely looked like something that could place in the top 3. Testing day arrived 2 days before the fair. We set up in the school's AV room after hours, when the building was mostly empty. Just us, the janitor somewhere down the hall, and the hum of the building's electrical systems. Sarah booted up the laptop while I connected the power supply. The device came to life with a soft whir, the frequency display showing a flat line of background radiation. Okay, here's the thing, Sarah said, adjusting her glasses. For the demonstration, I programmed it to play back pre-recorded static with some embedded sounds. Just enough to seem like it might be working without being obvious. We can't show up with a device that does literally nothing. I nodded. Smart. So we're faking the fake ghost detector. Exactly. She grinned and started the program. Static filled the room, that familiar white noise, with occasional pops and crackles. C. Ambient electromagnetic noise. Now watch what happens when I activate the enhancement protocol. She pressed a key, and the static changed slightly. If you listened hard, you could almost hear patterns in it. Almost like words, but not quite. Perfect for creating ambiguity in front of judges. Sounds good, I said. Very mysterious. Very. The static changed again, but Sarah hadn't touched anything. A tone emerged from the noise, a single sustained note that rose in pitch before cutting off abruptly. The frequency display spiked, showing a pattern that definitely wasn't in Sarah's programming. Did you do that? I asked. She shook her head, staring at the screen. That's not possible. The enhancement protocol only modulates existing patterns. We can't generate new? The tone came again, lower this time, followed by something that made the hair on my neck stand up. A voice, clear as day through the static. Testing. Testing. Is this working? We both jumped back from the table. Sarah's hand hovered over the keyboard, shaking. Someone's pranking us, I said, but my voice lacked conviction. Someone hacked into your program, or the program isn't connected to the internet, Sarah whispered. It can't be hacked, and that voice isn't coming from the software. Look, she pointed at the display. The frequency analysis was showing sound waves that corresponded perfectly with the voice, but they were coming through the electromagnetic receiver itself, not the laptop. Hello, Sarah said, her scientific curiosity apparently overriding her common sense. Who is this? Silence. Then, finally, been trying to reach someone in that building for years. You finally build something that works. I grabbed Sarah's arm. Turn it off, right now. Right now. But she was leaning closer to the speaker, fascinated and terrified in equal measure. Years? What do you mean? Who are you? Student? Like you? Was doing science fair project. 1987. Electrical experiment. Something went wrong. Sarah pulled up the school records on her phone, hands trembling as she typed. Her face went white. Oh God. Marcus Chun. Senior. 1987. There was an accident in the AV room. Electrocuted while working on his science fair project. They found him the next morning. The voice came again, and this time there was emotion in it. Relief, maybe, or hunger. Yes, Marcos Chun. Been here ever since. Trapped in the wiring, in the electricity, conscious but can't move, can't speak. Until now, until your device. This isn't real, I said, backing toward the door. This is a joke or a hallucination, or please don't turn it off, the voice interrupted. First time I've spoken in 37 years. First time anyone's heard me. It's so lonely in here. Just static and darkness, the sound of electricity running through walls. Sarah was crying now, but she hadn't moved to shut down the device. I'm so sorry. That's horrible, but we can't. I mean, this shouldn't be possible. Your device works perfectly. Better than you know. The frequency is right. You found the exact wavelength where consciousness remains after the body dies. Where I've been stuck. Where others are stuck too. Others? Sarah asked. The static intensified, filling the room with a sound like wind through a tunnel. And then we heard them. Voices. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. All trying to speak at once through our device. Different ages. Different genders. All desperate. All reaching out through the electromagnetic spectrum. The laptop screen started glitching. Text appearing that Sarah wasn't typing. Let us out, please. Sulfur monoxide cold. So alone. Let us out. The lights in the AV room began to flicker. Not just overhead, but the indicator lights on every piece of equipment. The TV monitors switched on by themselves. All showing the same thing. Static filled with faces, just for frames at a time. Mouths open in silent screams. Sarah finally lunged for the power button. The device died. The voices cut off. The room plunged into heavy silence. We didn't speak as we packed up the equipment. Didn't speak during the drive to Sarah's house. Didn't speak as we carried the device down to her basement. We have to destroy it, I finally said. Sarah nodded. Tomorrow, we'll tell Mr. Reeves we couldn't get it working. We'll take the failing grade. But the next morning, Sarah called me in a panic. It's gone. I went downstairs, and it's not there. The device, the laptop, all of it, just gone. We found it. Third period, set up in the gymnasium where the science fair was being held. Our booth, number 17, right between the solar cell project and the model of DNA. The device was already powered on, connected and waiting, and stuck to our presentation board was a note in handwriting neither of us recognized. Please do, you ain't abandon us again. Now, We're standing here watching our classmates filter in, knowing that in 2 hours, when demonstrations begin, we're supposed to turn it on in a room full of people, supposed to open a door we can never close. Sarah is staring at the device with scientific fascination and absolute terror. I'm thinking about all those voices, all those students who died in this building over the years, all of them waiting in the wiring, waiting for someone to tune to the right frequency. The device hums softly. Through the speaker, barely audible, comes a whisper. "Thank you. Almost time now."